Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to dive into the latest cinema news, from the newest films that are about to be released to the freshest celebrity events. This channel started its activity only a few days ago, so please don't be surprised by the number of views or members. A new video like this will be published every Friday each week, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos. As always, let's quickly get to work. This week's news, just like the news from 3 weeks ago, starts again with Paramount Studios, which is reportedly planning to buy Warner Bros. Rumors have spread on the internet saying that Donald Trump is actually interested in having Paramount purchase Warner. Trump's motivation is said to be related to the Ellison family, the same people who own Oracle, and Trump helped them not long ago to buy TikTok. Now apparently he's planning to help them merge Warner Brothers into Paramount. This potential merger has frightened many people. Many believe that it could harm freedom of speech and reduce filmmakers' creativity. One example of these reactions came from the Writers Guild of America, the same guild that went on strike about 2 years ago. The guild officially intends to prevent the acquisition of Warner Brothers and has issued a statement saying that this move would both damage freedom of speech and waste a lot of money, and since competition would decrease, both writers' rights and consumers' rights would be harmed. Now we just have to wait and see how this deal will eventually turn out. Paramount Studios had another major controversy as well. Taylor Sheridan, who is the creator of the series Yellowstone, 1883, and 1923. He's the one who made many successful shows for Paramount, such as Landman, Tulsa, King, and Mayor of Kingstown. After nearly 10 years of collaboration, he ended his 5-year contract with Paramount and joined Universal Studios. Interestingly, the deal he signed with this new company is worth $1 billion. The reason this happened is because of Paramount's new management team that took charge after the merger. Apparently, they interfered so much in Sheridan's work that he decided to leave the company. This is a huge shock for Paramount because during the past 5 years, he was the main pillar behind the studio's hit series. That means all the shows under his direction, Tulsa King, Landman, and Mayor of Kingstown, will probably wrap up their stories soon and won't continue. It's likely that each of them will have no more than one additional season. In the year 2028, Sheridan will officially begin his collaboration with Universal. And after that, he's expected to produce several feature films for the company as well. Another reason for his departure was political issues. Paramount reportedly refused to fund one of his series because of political concerns, and also asked him to create a show centered around the 250th anniversary of America, a request he declined, which caused further conflict between them. Now we'll have to wait and see how these right-leaning policies of Paramount's new executives will ultimately affect the entertainment industry. For the next piece of news, it's better to move on to the upcoming films. Johnny Depp, who has been in the headlines for months now about his return to Hollywood, just made news again. He finally signed a new contract after his trial with Amber Heard. He's set to play the lead role in Ebenezer: A Christmas Carol, portraying Scrooge. The film will be directed by the same person who directed the X-Men movies, and production is scheduled to begin very soon. The release date has been planned for exactly 1 year from now. That means filming has to start quite soon, as the movie is set to hit theaters at the end of the year 2026. Now, an interesting twist is that another studio is also making a film based on the same story, this one directed by Robert Eggers, with Willem Dafoe playing Scrooge. These two films are expected to be released only a short time apart. In the past, when situations like this happened, one studio usually backed down. For example, when Christopher Nolan wanted to make a film about Howard Hughes, Warner Brothers pulled the plug once they found out Martin Scorsese was making The Aviator, and Nolan couldn't make his version. So, in this case too, one of these two projects will probably have to withdraw or get canceled. Another piece of news about upcoming films and series is related to the director of Adolescence. You probably remember this show from the recent Emmy Awards. It was a very successful series, consisting of only 4 episodes, produced for Netflix. Now, that same director is set to make a new series called Rabbit, Rabbit. The script will be written by the same screenwriter who wrote The Batman and Top Gun: Maverick. The story is about a prisoner who escapes and ends up among a group of truck drivers where he takes hostages. From other well-known directors, there's more news. The Oscar-winning director of Good Will Hunting, Gus Van Sant, is set to direct a new film called Dead Man's Wire, starring Bill Skarsgård and Al Pacino. The film is inspired by a true story from the 1970s, involving a man who takes an insurance company's president hostage and demands $5 million. The movie is set to be released very soon. It will premiere during the Christmas season on the 9th of January for 1 week only in theaters before being released on Amazon. Among the upcoming projects, Margot Robbie's new work dominated the headlines last week. The first confirmed news is that Margot Robbie is in talks to play Britney Spears in the singer's biographical film. The movie will be based directly on Britney's own book, which sold over 2.5 million copies across the United States. That means the film will very likely be a box office success as well. The movie's title will be Britney, and Universal has purchased the adaptation rights to the book. Although the deal hasn't been finalized yet, the announcement has received very positive reactions across social media. But there was another piece of news about Margot Robbie, and this one didn't receive positive reactions at all. Remember a few months ago we reported that American Psycho was going to be remade with Luca Guadagnino set to direct? He had said that it doesn't matter to him whether the main character is played by a man or a woman, meaning he might create a female version of American Psycho. Now, last week, the well-known magazine The Sun published a new report claiming that Margot Robbie is in talks to star in the new version of American Psycho. In that report, the producers mentioned that they want to slightly change the essence of the film and move away from the repetitive tone of the original. What made many people believe this news was the fact that a clip of Margot Robbie went viral online, a short video made in 2018 where she acted out the opening scene of American Psycho. As we mentioned in previous reports, sometimes film studios deliberately spread rumors to test audience reactions. If people respond positively, they then begin negotiations and sign contracts. However, the social media backlash this time was so strong that just one day after the news broke, Deadline released a report saying the entire story was false. Apparently, the filmmakers have no plans to change the gender of the main character. The actors rumored to be in talks for the role are Austin Butler, Jacob Elordi, and Patrick Schwarzenegger. We'll have to wait and see which of them ultimately lands the part. Moving on to other film news from last week, there were many announcements about sequels being developed. One of the most surprising was Roadhouse, the same movie that was released last year starring Jake Gyllenhaal, produced by Amazon. It's surprising because the film itself was already a remake of the older Roadhouse starring Patrick Swayze. After its release, the film's director had disagreements with Amazon because the studio decided not to release it in theaters and instead launched it directly on streaming. Now, 2 Roadhouse movies are being developed simultaneously. The director of last year's version is working on another remake of the original film, while Amazon is producing a direct sequel to the 2024 Roadhouse with a new director. Filming for the sequel has already begun, and Jake Gyllenhaal will star again, this time alongside Dave Bautista. Since Amazon has already started production earlier, the original director likely won't be able to make his version, and the sequel to last year's movie will move forward under a new director. Another sequel that made headlines was for the live-action Aladdin. Disney officially announced that filming for the second installment will begin soon, with Will Smith and Naomi Scott returning as the film's stars. The first movie had a budget of $180 million and grossed nearly $1 billion at the box office. The surprising part is why there has been about a 6-year gap between the first and second films. Another sequel that appeared in the news was Wonka 2, once again starring Timothée Chalamet. It's been confirmed that filming will begin in early 2026, meaning this coming winter, and it's expected to be released about a year later. For Halloween, there was also a special screening of Jennifer's Body, a film from 16 years ago. Megan Fox, who starred in the movie, attended as a special guest. Her appearance had noticeably changed compared to before, and she confirmed during an interview at the event that a sequel is officially in the works and that filming will begin soon. Among the sequels, there was also news about the Ice Age animation series. The creators of Ice Age 6 announced that the 2 characters, Eddie and Crash, will no longer appear in the story. They've been completely removed. The newer Ice Age installments have faced budget limitations, similar to what happened with Kung Fu Panda 4, where some characters were cut. This new Ice Age movie is scheduled to be released next winter. For the next story, let's move on to the celebrities. Last week, a flood of photos came out from a fashion show organized by Vogue magazine. Vogue is often called the Bible of fashion because of its deep influence on style and culture, and interestingly, it's more than 130 years old. The magazine has 26 international editions. Since 2007, many print magazines have been creating live experiences to stay relevant in the digital age events like the Met Gala, for example. Now, for the past 4 years, Vogue has hosted a glamorous annual fashion show in a different city each year. This year, it took place in Hollywood. Classic magazines like Vogue do this to attract global attention and millions of online views. The event was titled Hollywood and attracted a huge number of movie stars. Nicole Kidman was the special guest. She opened and closed the show. They showcased costumes from iconic films, bringing in the original costume designers, many of whom are Oscar winners. For instance, they featured costumes from Marie Antoinette, Black Panther, and others. Even the main actors from those films appeared wearing their original on-set outfits. Gigi Hadid walked the runway wearing the costume from Dune. 2 of Johnny Depp's costumes were displayed, one from Alice in Wonderland and another from Edward Scissorhands. For the Edward Scissorhands outfit, they brought in a female model to present it. Other legendary movie looks were also shown, including those from Breakfast at Tiffany's and The Great Gatsby. Celebrities such as Hunter Schafer appeared wearing the costume from the film Orlando. Even animated characters were represented. For example, Jessica Rabbit's outfit was featured. The show also included a tribute to Diane Keaton, who recently passed away. They presented the costume from the film that won her an Oscar. Nicole Kidman herself didn't wear the dress she wore years ago in Moulin Rouge. Instead, Kendall Jenner walked the stage wearing it. The ceremony concluded with Nicole Kidman's appearance, marking the grand finale of the event. Another piece of celebrity news this week had to do with their relationships. There were quite a few stories about that topic. The first one was about Chris Evans and his wife, who welcomed a baby girl last week. No photos of their child have been released online yet. A similar piece of news was about Isaac Hempstead Wright, the 26-year-old actor from Game of Thrones who got married. He didn't reveal his wife's full name on social media, he only mentioned that her first initial is M. Another similar story involved Chris Martin and Sophie Turner. They had tried to keep their relationship private, but the news eventually leaked. Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay, recently ended his long-term relationship with Dakota Johnson, which lasted several years. Sophie Turner, of course, was previously married to Joe Jonas. Both Chris and Sophie have children from their previous marriages. Chris Martin is 48 years old. He has a 21-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son with his ex-wife, Gwyneth Paltrow. Sophie Turner has 2 children, aged 5 and 3. There was also another marriage-related story last week, though this time, the celebrity himself didn't get married. Elijah Wood, who is currently working on the new Lord of the Rings film, visited the old filming location of the series, the Shire Village. While he was there, he discovered that a couple was holding their wedding ceremony on the set. Completely surprising them, he joined their celebration without prior notice and took pictures with the newlyweds. Another piece of celebrity news this week was about Francis Ford Coppola, who recently released his film Megalopolis. Reports have now emerged that the legendary director is facing near bankruptcy. He's reportedly been forced to put his collection of expensive watches up for sale. Coppola himself said that he's in serious financial trouble and is simply trying to keep his ship afloat. For Megalopolis, he sold his vineyard and wine factory for $120 million and spent the entire amount on making the film. In the end, the movie earned only $14 million at the box office, half of which went to theater owners. There were also 2 casting-related stories this week. The first involved Andrew Garfield, who was rumored to be cast as Professor Lupin. When asked about it, Garfield didn't deny the rumor. He said, "I review any role that's offered to me," meaning he hasn't received the offer yet, but didn't close the door on the idea. The second casting rumor was about Sydney Sweeney. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that she was rumored to become the new Bond girl, partly due to her close ties with Jeff Bezos. When asked about it last week, Sweeney responded playfully, "It would be really interesting to play that role, but I'd actually be happier if they gave me the role of James Bond himself." Another celebrity-related story involved Donald Trump. Last week, he ordered the demolition of the 80-year-old White House Cinema, a screening room originally built by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt created it because he believed the entertainment industry was important, saying that during times of peace, it's useful, but during times of war, it's essential. He was, of course, president during World War II. Since then, every US president had used that same screening room to watch films and meet with famous directors. One of the most notable moments was when President Reagan watched E.T. with Steven Spielberg. Spielberg later shared a funny story, recalling that after the film ended, Reagan stood up completely serious and said, "The story of E.T. is real." Now, after 80 years, Trump has had the historic screening room demolished and plans to replace it with a ballroom. As the final piece of celebrity news, let's look at an amusing interview with Emma Stone. Stephen Colbert asked her if she thought it was possible that an alien might secretly be living among us. He asked this question because her new film is about extraterrestrials. When he followed up by asking who she thought that hidden alien might be, Emma Stone, without a second of hesitation and in her usual elegant tone, replied, "Definitely Willem Dafoe. Just look at that face."
Who do you think would make a good candidate for a secret alien?
Willem Dafoe.
You did.
100%.
You did not.
Now, moving on to the box office update, something interesting happened again last week. Once more, an anime dominated the US box office. Not long ago, Demon Slayer broke several sales records, and now Chainsaw Man has taken over, earning $22 million in just a few days in the United States, bringing its total worldwide box office to $100 million. Another movie that performed strongly was The Black Phone 2, which has been in theaters for just over a week. It has now grossed $84 million, while its production budget was only $29 million, meaning it has already become commercially profitable within just 7 to 10 days. So, it's safe to predict that next year we'll see a flood of horror movies hitting theaters. Given how much audiences have embraced the genre throughout the year 2025, and now, let's finish with the spicy news of the week. This week's spicy news once again comes from the world of fashion, specifically from GQ magazine. GQ officially named Justin Bieber the best dressed man alive and ranked him as the second most stylish person in the world. Zoe Kravitz was chosen as the best dressed woman in the world. What makes Bieber's selection amusing is that one of his signature traits is never pulling his pants all the way up. So much so that in an interview he was asked, "Why don't you ever pull your pants up? We always end up seeing your underwear." Bieber simply laughed and said, "It feels great people get annoyed when they see my underwear, and I love that." Well, friends, that wraps up this week's news. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a like. And until next week's update, goodbye.